Welcome, Daily Dosers. My name is Kip, and I'm one of the campus pastors here at North Coast from our Carlsbad campus. And today we're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. If you got your Bible and you're opening there, I'll give you a few minutes. But in this section, I wanted to talk about it because I think today in our culture and our age, we often find people getting into a situation where we get these agendaed items in our minds, and it can be dangerous for us as Christians because it often can create a divisive wedge between our message of the gospel to those because we separate ourselves onto this side or that side. And in the name of righteousness and justice, sometimes, unfortunately, we can craft this, if you will, a biblical soapbox that we stand on, which is okay if you're going to be a lighthouse, but if you want to use it to look down on people, then that becomes a problem. And so as we turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, I want to start in verse 13 and walk through this chapter because it starts here with verse 13 that says this: "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it." Now, with that, we often hear that verse, and it becomes kind of a hoorah. You can do it, even though you're facing trials and temptations. But that's kind of out of context in a sense, because this whole section at the beginning of chapter 10 is about a warning against idolatry. The very next verse says, "Therefore, my beloved, flee from idolatry." It begins with a list of the Israelites and what they've gone through, of times that they've doubted God, they've tested God, they've quarreled, they've sought after false gods and idols. And it shows, if you look back into the Old Testament, it shows God's provision and his grace and his mercy and even miracles in spite of them. But the warning is still there of what idolatry leads to. And as it continues on, as Paul is trying to train and teach these Corinthians, he gets into this next section where he uses these air quotes of all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful in verse 23. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. And as he transitions into this train of thought, he's bouncing back and kind of tying this in to go, now we can stand on a soapbox of idolatry, and that's a good and righteous thing to say, hey, warning against idolatry. But when we take that and turn it into legalism or an agenda, it becomes divisive. And what he's saying here as he gets into this is he then goes on to say, yes, should you be eating meat sacrificed to idols? Well, no, you shouldn't. So then they say, okay, therefore, if I eat meat sacrificed to idols, I'm sinning. Well, what if I go to the market, I buy some meat, and it was sacrificed to idols, I eat it unknowingly, and now I'm sinning? Okay, then I can't eat meat at the market, and then it becomes legalistic. And so he's warning against that. He's going, really, it comes down to good conscience. He even says in here, I'm speaking to you as if you're sensible people. So let me explain what I'm saying. And so if we are of good conscience and sensible people, we can take this instruction and not turn it into an agenda, but a way for us to have a plumb line that we can apply to multiple avenues of spirituality, multiple areas where we can then make healthy biblical decisions. And as he goes on, what it comes down to the heart of it is that he finishes in verse 31. He says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do," it's not about just eating and drinking, "whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God." And he gives an example as he goes on. He says, "Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved." And that's the heart of it. You're not going to reach people with the gospel. People aren't going to be swayed to Christ because of your agenda, because of your, this is the line and you have to stay on this side of it. And when it becomes so legalistic and strict, that it actually turns people away from the gospel. And I think that's his warning to us, is to go, yes, idolatry is bad. But when you stand on this soapbox of agendaed items, we can also create a divisive wedge between people. So I think today, if I were to challenge you, I would just say, walk today in good conscience and do whatever you do for the glory of God so that others may be saved. And that's really our challenge as we walk this Christian life in a world full of sin and corruption, that we don't get too caught up on the agendas, but really on the gospel that saves people and brings them in to a sensible understanding of what the Bible is all about. And so there you go, Daily Dosers. Have a great day.